Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
We are starting in a brave new series this evening. We're beginning the start of a study of a new book new to us, by Tara Brach, called Radical Acceptance. You're going to be hearing a lot about that in the coming weeks. And tonight I'm speaking on the Trance of Unworthiness, which is how we kind of sleepwalk or worry walk through our lives. You know, because we're all replaying our worries and plans in our minds, always falling short in our own judgment. Or is that just me? I mean, I don't know, maybe. Maybe this is all about me. And if it is, just sit quietly if you look at your phone if you'd like. The more we worry and see our flaws and failures, the more separate that we feel from others. It's a catch-22. It's a way in which things just seem like, we look at the more separate that we feel from others' lives, and our lives feel alone, like we're watching the world through a glass, right? Like, there's times when we just feel like if they really knew me, they wouldn't like me. So I can't show all of me, or I can't show all of who I am. I can't tell them everything that I feel or think or see necessarily, because I won't be found acceptable. These are all the challenges and insecurities and fears that we've grown up with, and no matter what our spiritual practice has been, still we tend to have all of these old residual disturbance, static, in our minds, in our brains, that catch us off guard and keep us separate. Tara Brach, who's a psychotherapist and meditation teacher, she writes a prescription for interrupting the trance of unworthiness that befalls us in practicing radical acceptance. So in the coming weeks, we'll be talking more and more about practices and ways in which you can break through that you can wake up from it, that you can begin to reclaim your power and to utilize the truth of who you are. She says, feeling unworthy goes hand in hand with feeling separate from others and separate from life. If we are defective, how can we possibly belong? If we feel like there's something not right about us or not good enough, our feelings of unworthiness and alienation from others give rise to various forms of other suffering that we sort of inflict on ourselves. Our compensations that we go to combat the feelings of unworthiness include patterns of projection. We project our fears or project the unwanted parts of ourselves on other people. We see that in other people and call it out and name it. We blame other people for how we are or what we don't have or what we never got, or criticism of ourselves. We criticize others. And addictive behaviors, all forms, all kinds of repetitive things that keep us stuck in behaviors that in an effort to try to soothe ourselves, to feel more connected, to temporarily distract us, perhaps. And it not only causes more suffering and loss in practicing these defenses, these behaviors, but it reinforces the feeling of unworthiness and shame. So what do we do? Well, one woman's strategy for handling the feelings of unworthiness that Tara Brach talks about is that she reported that she focuses on her talents and her gifts. Sounds like a good idea. But Brock says, rather than simply recognizing her talents and enjoying her strengths, she needs the reassurance of feeling special or superior just to be okay. In other words, it becomes another defense, another distraction. I know that in my own recovery process, I discovered that I used a similar psychological defense, that I believed that I have been given a lot of gifts and talents that I would recognize or that I got praise for, and that I didn't see that everyone else had. And so rather than feel sorry for myself, I found that what I should do is I should give to others, I should help others, I should extend myself. And while that sounds noble, it was actually papering over a belief that my actions also needed to be perfect and equal to the quality of the gifts I had. And when I determined that they weren't, that I hadn't done it right or done enough of it or done it fast enough or done it the way somebody else expected, well, at least I was doing better than other people around me. So I would compare myself to others, and that would be a way to assuage myself. But do you hear how lonely that is? I really wasn't winning with that strategy either. And you can tell how twisted it was getting. It's hard to discern where the truth is. It's almost right, but it was a twisted way that my ego used to help keep me separate. Because the ego will always try to do that. It keeps trying to distinguish itself and tries to distinguish us and our identity, when in fact what we are is really one with all. And when that happens, the ego dissolves. The ego becomes less important, and it's threatened by that. Brock says that many people she works with confide that feeling undeserving has made it impossible for them to ask for help or to let themselves feel held by another's love. In other words, that I feel worthy, that I feel beloved, that I'm okay just the way I am, just with what I have, just with what I do, just with what I said, just the way I showed up. That dream to be loved from head to toe is a chronic, I think, desire of the soul, because it knows deep down that's what we deserve, because we are okay, because that's how God loves us. That's the love that we are and that we have to give to others. But it doesn't just interfere with our own peace of mind and self-love or our relationships with others and feeling connected. As Chogyam Trungpa, the Tibetan Buddhist teacher, writes, the problem is that the ego can convert anything to its own use, even spirituality. Tara Brach says, the quest for perfection is based on the assumption that we have to change ourselves to belong to one another, to belong to humanity, really, to find our place in the collective, in all of the human race itself. We may listen longingly, she says, to the message that wholeness and goodness have always been our essence, yet we still feel like outsiders, uninvited guests at the feast of life. Starting to relate a little bit, just this sense that somehow no matter what I do or how hard I try, there's something left undone, something falls short, something not worthy, something not lovable, something I'm still working on in myself, something that might be broken, that I don't want to show, that I don't want to talk about. Mother Teresa said, the biggest disease today is not leprosy or tuberculosis, but rather the feeling of not belonging. I love that she's put her finger on that. Because unworthiness gets into value judgments. And that's where I get caught up. I get stuck with value judging. What's good, what's not good, what's good enough, what's close enough, what's better, what's okay, you know, what's forgivable, what isn't, you know. I mean, all of those kinds of distinctions, discernments, I thought that's what we were supposed to be doing. I thought that's how the game is played. But when you put your finger on this idea of belonging to the human race that you were born into, that you are a card-carrying member of, and yet you feel like you don't belong, that you're not accepted, that you're not lovable, that not everybody sees it that way, and that therefore you are unacceptable, then that's the problem, isn't it? That place of where do we go from here? So what's the antidote? Well, there is a healing power and truth in affirming, I belong here. Say that with me. I belong here. I belong. I belong. You belong. Like I said, we've got belly buttons. We belong here. It doesn't matter what else is attached to those belly buttons or surrounding them or what carries them through your life. Who you are and what you bring is needed, and we would not be complete. We would not be whole without you. Rather than placing value judgments upon ourselves or actions or upon our actions or upon others, if we simply focused on belonging, because what happens is when we put value judgments on our actions, our thoughts, and how we are, then we're constantly doing this one up, one down swing. If I'm gifted and I'm in touch with my goodness and how good I am or how well I'm doing things, I'm in an up position from somebody who may not be in that position or I may not see as being equal, and I'm in a one up, one down, which only breeds resentment. So sometimes I'm feeling on top of the world, and other times, with the very next thought, sometimes I'm a loser. I fell off the stand, right? And other people look like they're winning, like they got it together, like they don't suffer, like they don't live like I do. And so I'm constantly doing this. But when I say I belong, then all my raw edges and all my unfinished business and all of the stuff I'm working on and all the things that I thought I fixed but are still haunting me and all of the things that I'm really good at, that I've developed, that I really have to give as a gift, all of that is welcome here. It all belongs. It's all, there's a Karen-sized space just for me, with all of my weird, twisted things and some bright, shiny light at the same time. And for you too. As long as we're comparing ourselves with others, we're never going to feel that sense of belonging and acceptance. And ultimately, the love of our rightful place in humanity. But we could, and we can. I belong. You belong. Say that again. I belong. I belong. You belong, right? I'm accepting. Love is the great harmonizing power, the attractive, magnetizing force, the healing flow from where it is to where it is not. That's what love does. It is the very field of belonging that we seek. And we come from that. We are of that. That is our deepest essence, is the beautiful love of the universe. When I was in therapy and I was expressing my angst and frustration with myself, my therapist would occasionally ask, do you think that what you just described to me, Karen, keeps God from loving you? And I have to say, I was a minister at the time, let me just say, the very first thought that came to me was, what has that got to do with what I'm talking about? You know, it's like, I didn't even understand the question. It's like, well, you know, she interrupted my whining and my train of thought, and I said, I think God loves me just the way I am. And of course, then I realized that was the answer. that it really wasn't that I have one more thing to fix before I'm lovable, that I've got one, I'm in the home stretch here and I almost got it. I already have it. I already have all the love, and so do you. You already have all the love. You already are all the love. You are the field of love. You are a part of the field of love. You bring it and you complete the field of love that we collectively share. Spiritual practice helps us to reinforce the feeling of acceptance and worthiness that our teachings tell us is the truth of us. In ministerial school, I began to practice seeing and sensing the light that I am. I began to take it very seriously and literally, that if there is really a light, I should be able to see it. It was kind of it was a take on Charles Fillmore, that if there is really a mind of God, that he could just go to headquarters, and then he just sat in a chair until he felt like he made contact with that. I felt like I can almost see it. I can start to feel it. I feel the vibration. I should be able to see it. It felt like I could, with my intuitive eyes, not with my physical eyes, but with my intuitive eyes, I could see the light that I was. I could feel it coming out of my fingertips. Put your fingers out for just a minute. Can you feel a little tingle, a little vibration, a little something? Breathe into your heart and share it with the rest of you, your physical self. Can you just feel at the tips of your fingers that there's sort of an emanation, that you're letting yourself be the light of the world in a very literal way? A feeling that this light comes of its own accord. It wasn't something that I do or that I make happen. It's not something you do or make happen. It's something that you already are. It's not something that you've earned. It's something that has been planted in you. And that I learned from it's my very own portion of God light. And by golly, I want to use it. How about you? I want it to shine. That it flowed from me. That others could see or feel or infer from just my being here that was shining. And I told myself, they use the light I am to see me. They use it to see me with. They see through using the light. That light shines in their eyes and helps me to see who I truly am. And if I'm wise and if I'm open and if I'm aware, I can use that light and see their light to see them with. Compassion. It's not a concept or an understanding of the mind, but a spaciousness of the heart. It arises spontaneously in us when we recognize ourselves in others, or recognize some hurt or pain or suffering in ourselves or another that draws comfort from us at the heart level. In their book, Stories of the Spirit, Jack Kornfield and Christina Feldman tell this story. See, a family went out to a restaurant for dinner. When the server arrived, the parents gave their orders, and immediately their 5-year-old daughter piped up with her own order. She said, "I'll have a hot dog, French fries, and a Coke." "Oh, no, you won't," interjected the dad. And turning to the server, he said, "She'll have meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and milk." And looking at the child with a smile, the server said, "So, hon, what do you want on your hot dog?" When she left, the family sat stunned and silent. And in just a few moments, the little girl, eyes shining, said, She thinks I'm real. She was seen. Her light was visible, and she now learned that. She was seen, she was heard, and this would inevitably become something she would grow into and grow with. I had grown up telling myself that only my younger siblings needed things, younger than me. I didn't need anything that I couldn't provide for myself. I'd learned that as the oldest of a house full of smaller children, that my own need was never as great as theirs, or great as the smallest child. So rather than suffer that pain of unmet needs, I decided that I would either provide whatever I needed for myself, or I would stop wanting it. And I had to learn, in order to learn compassion for myself and for others, I had to learn how to be vulnerable, how to make that okay, how to feel the uncomfortable weakness, loss, inability to fulfill whatever it was I needed, to need, to want, and not have, and to admit that I had needs, and to feel the pain of the need and its relief when I learned how to ask for support and receive it. That was difficult for me, and when I did, I learned that in my heart, I now could find a way to have compassion for me and compassion for others. When I stopped judging within myself, I stopped judging it in others as well. And when I felt that, I felt the pull of my heart opening in recognition and compassion, first for myself at times and for others, because I recognize myself in that need, in that weakness, in that vulnerability. Ajahn Buddhadasa said, he was a Buddhist meditation master, refers to the habit of attaching a sense of self to our experiences, eyeing, and mying. In other words, identifying with myself and with my feelings and with my life. We interpret everything we think and feel and everything that happens to us as in some way belonging to us or defining us, that it's somehow caused by a self of us. And we are caught in that trance of unworthiness that we experience in us, this core, as being flawed, as something is wrong with me, something is not enough in me. Somehow the feeling of being separate underscores or proves the fundamental assumption that we're really not okay. As if being an I, capital I, tears us away from belonging and wholeness. That I can't be myself and I, because as soon as I'm a self, I'm somehow pulled away. Why? I need to practice belonging. I need to practice seeing that my uniqueness has a place and it fits and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm already love. I'm already light. Knowing with the mind is the first step only. Confronting beliefs that rule our feelings about ourselves and replacing them with words of truth, that's the next thing we do. Understanding with the mind is the booby prize. Feeling is knowing. And when we feel that pull with our heart, we identify ourselves with the light that we are, with the love that we are. Brock says, if our sense of who we are is defined by feelings of neediness and insecurity, we forget that we are also curious, humorous, caring. We forget about the breath that is nourishing us, the love that unites us, the enormous beauty and fragility that is our shared experience in just being alive. Most basically, we forget the pure awareness, the radiant wakefulness that is our true nature, the light that we are already. In this series, you're going to find more and more ways in our spiritual practice that we'll be waking up out of this trance of unworthiness. And as Hafiz says, how did the rose ever open its heart and give to this world all of its beauty? It felt the encouragement of light against its being. Otherwise, we all remain too frightened without it. We're on a great journey. Hope you'll stay with us. Namaste.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.